Welcome to our show, Latanya, aka T Fent,
CJ,
and we have a very special guest, Miss Toy Toy.
Hi, y'all.
So we're going to be talking about interracial dating. This is part 2 of our first video, talking about interracial dating in a more personal level, because Toy Toy here has experience, and so she's gonna tell us the behind the scenes,
White man.
the behind the scenes of being in a interracial relationship.
We're not starting this over, so listen up.
Wait, why does it get so late? My shit
Yeah,
is like
yeah, you
bright
are
white.
like, yeah, no, but it's gonna
Look,
fix.
I'm like into the
I
background.
know, but it's gonna
just
fix.
hair. It's
You
my
have
shirt.
faded.
Yeah, it's gonna fix.
Okay.
Now, so Toya is gonna give us her expert
Oh, Lord.
Opinion.
opinion in interracial dating. And if you're wondering why we're doing this in black and white, because we want to.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, where should I start? Do you have any questions for me first?
Okay, I would like to know, why is that your preference? Like, how does that work? Like, is it just your preference? Is it something you feel more comfortable dating white men? Like, do you like the way white men treat you? Or are you just more attracted to white men?
I have always been attracted to white men, even as like a toddler. Carla knows that I used to love some Mr. Hart from Heart to
I
Heart.
can vouch for that.
I also used to love the guy that played Dan Tana from Vegas, Robert Urich. Loved him. It was just,
What about Don Johnson? Did you like him from
hell
Miami?
yeah.
Really? Because I like the other guy.
No.
Dukes of Hazards?
I didn't really
Oh
look
yeah,
at them.
they was sexy though.
Yeah, the blonde and Bo and Luke, right?
It just, I just didn't, no.
Not
No,
that.
they look like
It was just, yeah, it's just an attraction. I never, I can't say that I preferred the way they treat me because I only ever dated white men. After my divorce, I dated a black guy briefly.
it's not your flavor. It's not, you don't like it.
He wasn't my flavor.
Okay.
You know what I mean? The way he was. It was too secretive. It was, well, I live with the baby mom, but I'm only there to take care of the kids.
Right.
And it was a lot of baby moms, and he was used to women depending on him financially, so they put up with his shit, and I didn't need him for nothing, so
Right.
I was like, fuck you.
Right.
And then
So
I
you
was
don't leverage.
I was bougie. I was, you know, that's why I don't fuck with, you know, girls like you. It was like,
What do you
all this
mean by
other
girls
stuff.
like you? That's educated, well off?
I wasn't sure. I didn't ask because at that point I didn't care to know what he meant by it.
Okay.
I was just like,
So what kind of prejudice have you faced prejudice from dating white men being a black female?
the majority of it has come from black males. Like, you know, so I was with my ex-husband for 25 years, 10 of them married. So from the time I was 15 to 2018, when we used to go down like the South Street, the black men would give us a hard time.
Yeah.
The fuck you fucking with that honky for, cracker for? Like, it was always, it was more directed at him, but then it was like, sis, what's wrong with us? You can't be with one of us. You know what I mean? It was like, I didn't understand where it was coming from. I didn't, because I hate when people say they don't see color, because unless you're blind, that's a fucking lie. Everybody sees color.
Right.
But my grandma was white, my papa was black. Everybody in my household was every shade of everything, and it was never an issue who you dated, whether they were black, whether they were white. It didn't matter. So I was kind of naive to it. And Dwayne was just the first guy that I met, fell in love with, and it wasn't like a conscious effort to be like, I have to find a white man to date. It's just what happened.
And Dwayne has he's alive. Like he was that guy back in the day. And it's crazy about it that you like white men, because Dwayne, in my mind, when they say like somebody acts black or is black, Dwayne was like just an honorary black person.
Well, that was the joke.
Right.
That I was black but acted white, and he was white but acted black.
Okay.
So it was like, and I laughed at it back then, but as I've gotten older, I was just like, why was it how come it's the people that you associate with that determine your ethnicity?
Right.
Like, your ethnicity can't be based on who you hang with. It doesn't matter if I hang with the Ku Klux Klan, I'm still black.
Right.
But as a mixed race person, I can't negate my white side either. So it gets like to be a catch-22, and I guess that's why I never really thought about it. I thought I had just as much freedom to date white or black. And it was never an issue for me until other people started making it an issue for me.
Right. And that's crazy, I guess you would say that black men were the ones that were really targeting you and your ex, because like a lot of black men feel like we as black women attack them for dating white women. Yeah. But then for them to be the main ones doing the same thing is just crazy to me.
And it was, it wasn't just there. Like there were multiple instances when we would be out. Very rarely did white men and women would give you kind of the side eye, but wouldn't say nothing. But black men were very vocal. And I don't know if it's because they were trying him because he was a white guy,
right? Well,
and not knowing that
he's the wrong person,
right? Yeah, back then he was the wrong person. Anyway, that's a whole other series.
Everybody wants to smoke with Dwayne.
But yeah, and then it wasn't like when I divorced him, I was like, oh, let me find another white guy. I was excited to date because I didn't really know what kind of man I liked. I was between for so long that I was like, you know what? I almost went out of my way to find a black guy to date because I was tired of people being like, oh, you don't give black men a chance. It doesn't hit me up like that.
If that's not your preference, it's just not your preference. Because I think about like if it's a preference, I cannot date somebody who's just not my speed. Like I get more white males, but that's just not what I'm interested in.
Right.
And so I have to go out of my way to really attract what I like.
And the black men that Lord,
what you
said? I like a nice. I like a dark skin.
With them big
rough. I like a rough dark skin. That's my preference.
She likes ugly men.
No, that's not true.
From Good Times.
I do not.
From Good Times. The dad.
Yes, James was fine though.
His nose was ridiculous.
It was African.
What does that got to do with anything?
He was true to his tribe.
That's all I seen was that nose.
Wants to self-hatred.
Oh Lord. Oh Lord.
So let me ask you
what's
this.
the next question?
So when you decided to have children, like were you concerned about how they were going to be, like how they were going to be able to get through childhood?
No.
That wasn't.
I never thought about it.
Right.
It never crossed my mind because it was such a non-issue to me. And then like when I had them, I didn't really think anything of it. The first time I was ever faced with racism towards my kids, Maddie was my oldest, and when Maddie was born, she didn't even look mixed, if you will. She had little blonde ringlets and green eyes. I was in the store with her, and whenever Dwayne was in the store with her, nobody questioned him if he was holding her. When I would hold her, they were like, oh my God, do you work for her family?
That's not funny.
I had somebody in the Cherry Hill, it used to be, before it was Whole Foods, it was like a ShopRite or something right there in Ellisburg Circle. And the lady was like, oh, do you nanny for her? And I was caught off, nobody had ever said some shit like that to me before. So I was like, what do you mean? And I said, she calls me mommy. And she was like, oh.
That's crazy.
That never happened with Dwayne.
Right.
And I'm just like, wow, are we really like, there's all different colored people and mixed races. Like, I didn't realize we were still on that. And to take it back to nannying her, I was like, oh, okay.
A lot of people can't get past skin complexion when they come to black people. Like, they don't understand how many different shades we come in. They can't wrap their mind around the fact that somebody dark skin can have a light skinned child,
right?
Or a light skin can have a dark skinned child. Like it doesn't make any sense to a lot of people, especially a lot of even people that are foreigners.
Yeah.
Foreigners, they don't understand. I know I met an Indian lady and she didn't understand how, like my brother could be a certain complexion and I'm not the same complexion as him. Like it just doesn't. I don't know.
But even like what we were talking about off camera, if we expect others to wrap their head around it, but within our own community, there's prejudice around skin tone.
Yeah.
So it's like, dang, we got to do some work within our own before we expect to explain it to other people.
Exactly. And it's funny that you should say that because I remember having a conversation with Danielle and she had said she was in Wegmans, how are you pronounce it? Wegmans. And yeah. I don't go there. I only went one time when you guys went.
You should go there. It's nice.
With an Acme and ShopRite. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Wegmans is where it's at.
Now, what she say now?
All right, so Danielle was saying the same thing. what happened with you with your daughter. That's what happened with Elijah.
Oh, okay.
Her son. So
yeah, because he was curly blonde hair.
Yep. She said when he's with Randy, it's a different thing. But when he's out with her, now Aaliyah, she don't get that, but Randy gets it.
Yeah, because Aaliyah looks just like her.
Yeah, because Aaliyah looks like Danielle, and Elijah looks like Randy. So I was like, yeah, it's. But
no, I never thought of it as an issue, and like I said recently with George Floyd, and I hate to keep pinpointing him because it's just, I think the incident that happened with him was just the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah,
right.
It's not thinking about all the other injustices before him. I think he just made the temperature boil.
Right.
Yeah.
At the right time.
Right.
Because people were sitting in the house, they in quarantine, they furious about their own situation.
It was a perfect storm.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Unfortunate that it had to happen, but it opened up a lot of people's eyes.
Absolutely.
It should anyway, but it was just another.
But what had happened to him though really opened my eyes because my grandson is brown skinned.
Yeah.
Love my Nunu to death. And like I said, I was aware of the other things that were happening, but it's part of that. You think about it, you feel bad about it, then you have to shut it down because it can really just take over mental space, and you can't live in a constant state of fighting all the time.
No, you can't.
Or explaining all the time. So you kind of just have to put it away and go about your daily life. But when I thought of him, and I thought, oh my God, I can't separate this out, and I can't say, well, this won't happen to my kids because they aren't brown skinned, even though they are part black, when it can happen to him.
Right.
Statistically, it will probably happen to him. He will face it, at some degree, at some point. It was then that it really was just like, oh my God, it's something I think about occasionally. It's something that some people think about all the time, what they have to deal with all the time. And it was really the first time, though, that I ever thought about mixed race or how the world treats black people. I mean, I know my history. I know things like that. I know discrimination exists. But it's really the first time that I had to have conversations with my kids, with, my partner now, just about how do they feel about this? Have they experienced it? Have they seen it happen? Would they intervene? I had when I was really upset about the whole George Floyd incident, I had seen the video and I had gone into my other room and Harry came in and he was just like, I'm sorry you're so upset, which was a very nice thing, but my immediate reaction was, I'm sorry that you're not.
Yeah.
And he was, he kind of felt a certain way about it, but I was like, we got to do more to feel bad about this. I need you to do more than feel bad about this. Right. You know what I mean? So it led to a lot of conversations since then about, as a white male, we started talking about white privilege. We started talking about, okay, just because maybe he doesn't use the N-word, people around him do, and does he feel differently now because I'm the first black girl that he's dated? Does he feel differently when it's said around him?
Right.
When he used to dismiss it before, be like, oh, that's them before. I was like, are you going to stop it now? Or are you going to say something now? He's like, well, if they say it to you. And I'm like, that's not good enough.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's definitely a learning process with us. I had 4 kids and worked, and I got to say, my ex-husband and I didn't talk about a lot of relative issues. So it wasn't ever, a conversation, but he grew up in a black community, like you said, like it was, you know what I mean?
Like Holly Hills is such a diverse area. Like I think that's something we've been gifted with, but everybody was mixed because it was like the closest development outside of Browns Mills to the military base. So I mean, to me, it's like we think differently. We've been exposed to more cultures than most people. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We're coming from the neighborhood we came from. Yeah,
but as a kid, growing up, the racist remarks that I ever used to get used to come from black children, and I didn't understand it. Like to me, we were the same. And then I had the incident that I talked about when I moved with my mom one time to Georgia, where the kids were throwing trash and the state troopers had to come and get me off the bus, and I didn't understand it because it was like nothing that had ever happened to me here. But I never attributed it to all white people. I thought it was just those white people. Right. You know what I mean? And never in my head was it like all white people are like this, or I have to be careful around white people.
Because they're not.
Right. Well, because there's, people have biases and stereotypes all the time.
Which is normal.
But it's as I have gotten older and evolved and professionally, have I experienced the microaggressions where, people say things that sound like a compliment, but it's always followed by a but, or things that they would ask me that they wouldn't ask a white counterpart. Like I said, nice doesn't equal not racist. So,
interesting.
Sorry, off
topic. No, it's a good conversation because I remember the first time somebody said something racist to me. Steve, what's the kids do with we went to school and we lived in Torranceville?
You're talking about Steve, not Steve
No, not Anarelli, that's my guy.
Steve Anarelli, yeah. Steve Spagnoli, I think. What's it? Something.
No,
yeah, little nerdy looking guy, glasses.
He was thick.
You talking about Joey Russo?
No, Steve.
No.
He said his grandma old my grandma. I said, my grandma, you ain't old my grandma. You got the game fucked up.
Wait, Steve. I never said important, but
Steve. You know Steve. He lived in the blue house with all the little square windows, the triangle windows. Not triangle, I'm tripping.
He was in your grade or my grade? He was in your grade?
Our grade.
Well, you're one grade older than me.
Oh, that's right. He's in my grade. Steve, y'all know Steve. Torranceville. Steve.
Okay, but anyway, what he said?
Yeah,
he said my grandma owns your grandma. I said, no, you know.
Oh, he assumed your grandma was black?
Yeah, I was like, oh, sorry. She might have got you. She might have got your grandma, for all I know.
Right.
But I was like, why would he say that? I was like, why would he say that? But that's the first time I ever, dealt with something like that. And then somebody was like, well, because slavery, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, okay, because I ain't never heard of nothing. Because black history and culture is not something that was part of my everyday life.
It wasn't part of mine.
I'm straight.
We weren't taught it in school. If it wasn't February,
in the household,
we didn't hear about it.
Thank you. That's what I
said.
said.
Not in the household either. My whole ideology, I'm being raised under a Nazi ideology.
That is crazy.
It's a very cocky. You walk away a certain way. You talk.
But wait a minute. Think about that. As a black female raised under white supremacy ideology,
right? If I even show any kind of doubt in how I spoke, I had to speak this with a certain level of I'm the shit.
Well, that's what you think now anyway. So
that's what I know. I don't know. I was never taught to think I'm inferior. I was always taught that.
Well, that's not.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, I'm happy about it.
Yeah.
But I know that it comes across wrong with a lot of people once I got older and I started, hanging with certain people. People take that. They don't take that the right way. They think I don't know. A lot of people think I just talk too assertive. I'm too direct. You know what I mean? I don't really have too much of a filter. You know what I'm saying?
Do you get that from both blacks and whites?
No, I get that from black people.
So that's what we're talking about, people.
Yeah. It's like an arrogance. I come with an arrogance.
But isn't that crazy? Why wouldn't another black person be proud to see another assertive, proud black person?
I'll answer that for you because we hate on one another.
Right.
We don't want to see,
I think that
not us, but you know what I mean. In general, we don't want to see each other prosper, and that's why we do it to ourselves. I said it last 2 weeks ago.
I think since slavery, though, we've been passed down. Black people have been passed down that they're inferior. Even if you don't, subconsciously, it's passed down from generation to generation. It's kind of like you're trained by your grandma and mom to basically stay in a certain place.
Well, I want to say something. Interject.
And I don't know that.
Yeah, I don't think about how I feel about that.
Let me. When I went to school in Newark and living with the foster family, I didn't think about all these things that we're talking about right now. I just wanted to be loved and I wanted to be successful.
Sure, your kids. There's a hierarchy.
Right.
I didn't think about all the ignorance that was going on, but it was right before my very eyes. Even to this day, because I was raised by a white woman, and I'm not going to, excuse me, sorry, Corona, sorry. I might play. I might play. I had to lighten the mood. Anyway, being raised by a white woman, and I would have to say it, and I don't care if anybody gets mad or whatever the case may be, but my vocabulary changed. She introduced us to so many different things.
Yeah, but you're going from the city to the suburbs. You was back in Rancover's Woods. You wasn't even.
Had you always been with white foster families?
No.
Okay.
No, I've always been with black people. It was 30. And then Karen came along.
But Karen was like Murphy Brown.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
I mean, this woman,
professional white lady.
yeah, psychiatrist. She was, she, you know what I mean, lived by herself. And she just wanted to have children. Didn't matter because they were black or white or whatever, but she just wanted to see people happy and bring sisters and brothers together. And I thank God for her for that. But I don't.
Her house and turn her shit upside down.
No, not me. That was them. Yeah, Sean had parties, Roxanne
doing things.
Yeah, I remember when Dwayne came over.
Yeah,
they all of them. Yeah, but
a white man with a little bit of edge.
That was Sean's guy too. Sean liked Dwayne.
Dwayne was that shit.
But
he was,
look,
was imperative statement.
Was. Yeah. But it's your upbringing, and it's what you want to, what you want to learn in life. If you want to sit there and be ignorant as a human being, I'm not even going to throw color up in there, then that's what you're just going to be, because you're in control of your own destiny. Period. Now.
Toni Morrison.
Well, see, my thing is that this whole race situation makes people so angry you don't know, like,
yes.
to lash out at. But people have to remember that it took everybody to free slavery. It was like so many white people died for us.
It's it.
You know what I mean? Like so many Jewish people died for us.
And see,
you know what I'm saying? Like
some black people don't know that though.
But can we go back to the slave mentality and because I don't know if I know that it's a real thing, but to me it's like claiming to have it's a perceived PTSD. It's like me saying that I have PTSD from what happened to my mom, whatever that is. That can't be real. A post-traumatic stress, it has to be happening to you or happened to you. It can't be the idea or what happened before.
But what she teaches you is based off her own trauma. Like, if I think about, like, my mom, my mom was on drugs. I know that some of the things that I do are things that was because of her drug behaviors. So a lot of stuff that she do that I do, and I'm like, I've never been on drugs, but I know this is related to her being on drugs. It was just things that I picked up from her, and it became part of my everyday thing.
Right.
I don't know if I answered it.
No, but yeah, but I guess when I hear it, what I hear is that kind of what is that, environment versus like
nurture? Yeah,
nature versus nurture, or kind of who you are as opposed to what you grow up in.
Right.
Because if we took that that idea of slave mentality and you take it towards we'll use Tanya's situation, not Tanya. If you take a black child and you put them in a system where you put them with a white family, then who's feeding them that ideology? Right. So does that mean they don't get it? Does that mean is it inherent because she's black, or do you have to be fed that?
I think you have to be fed it, because there's a lot of things that go over my head because I was raised by a white woman. Right. So a lot of things that black people think I should get. Right. I don't get.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too. Like,
I'll give you an example. I was at work one day and I had a wig on, and this lady, this white lady, she was playing with my hair. I don't care about that. Right. But in the black culture, that's an issue.
Yeah, like, don't touch my hair.
That's an issue in the black culture. So my coworkers were like, when she left, they said, "Don't you ever let her do that again." And I said, "That ain't my shit. That's a Malaysian lady hair. I don't care about that hair." They said, "But that's not the point. You don't let them do that to you because they act like you're like some kind of an animal and they're looking at your hair and trying to get a feel." I don't see that because my grandma was white, so I just don't. It goes over my head.
And that kind of stuff has gone over my head too, because I wouldn't think twice about it. But I wouldn't agree with what they're saying. I'm like, y'all are perpetuating a thing. Yes. Because you're assuming that this lady was touching your hair
to examine it.
Right. Instead of just being
take
like,
it as
like, yeah. Like there's no intention behind it. Right. There's no motive behind it. But sometimes I just don't know.
That's the issue in the black community that I just don't. It doesn't. I'm not offended by it. If somebody white comes up to me and touches my hair, I wouldn't be offended by it. I don't know. But
that's a hard thing to know what you should be offended by. I feel like if it doesn't resonate with you, if it doesn't resonate as an offense, then it shouldn't be offensive.
But it is, because it's like when it's like if you don't get everything that goes with this culture, it's like you're looked at differently.
Which is why I felt ostracized. Which is why, like, I never felt like I had to choose. I thought I could be friends with whoever I wanted to be friends with. If I fuck with you, I fuck with you. If I don't, I don't.
Right.
But it was my experience that, like, the black girls didn't want to be friends with me. They didn't like the way I talked. They didn't like the way I wore my hair. There were so many things I didn't like, or that I had to explain, or you know, who's white. They always wanted to know how I was black.
Right.
I always felt like I had to. No, I really am.
Right.
And then I was just like, well, fuck y'all. Like, but because I went and hung with a white girl, so to speak, it wasn't being anti-black. They just didn't put the same pressures on me.
Right, exactly.
I didn't have to explain how much percent white I was. I didn't have to explain anything.
Right.
And if somebody said something that was out of pocket, if it felt offensive to me, then I corrected it then. As I got older. As a kid, I didn't. I let a lot of shit slide.
Right.
I think we all did.
We didn't know any better.
Right.
Yeah.
We didn't know any better. But
and I was like, I don't want no friends. If the black girls don't be friends with me, and now I start putting the white girls in their place, so I don't have no friends.
Right. And see, for me, I fall into the black girl category, but they like, what the fuck wrong with this broad? Like, where did she come up with this shit that go on her? Because my way of thinking can be very different. Like, I know one of my close friends said, I think like a white man. Because I'm raised by the racist little white lady, and nobody understands what I had to go through with this woman. This is what. So you know, I don't know. So I'm like the strange one. Like no one understands because they don't understand even. They don't even think that I'm part white.
Right.
So they're trying to figure out how much black you are. They just looking at me like you black, and why the fuck you acting like this?
Making shit up.
Yes, I'm finding people. I'm making people up on my family tree. So,
Tanya, how have you felt with this? Being raised by a white woman.
Being a dark-skinned woman, we had it rough, but...
Yeah, y'all did, because I used to tear you up, too.
Did you?
Yeah,
very mean. Very, very mean.
Why? Because my brothers did it to me.
Very mean. So
Eric and Bobby used to tear me up.
You know, living with Karen and everything like that, and she said, don't you ever let anybody say anything about your skin. You have the most beautiful... skin in the world. So, you know.
It was your hair, though, that fucked it up.
It didn't even matter, though. But see, that's what we're talking about right here. You know what I'm saying? That's right. That's what black people tear black people down.
No, because you didn't know how to do it.
It wasn't me. You damn right. Karen didn't know how to do it.
Well, what was your hair like?
Girl, you seen,
Miss Seeley?
Yes.
So, got into the straight, and yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
Wait, because Nettie had like, you know, she kind of had some like parts and she had to like bring it up.
It was bad. So where the lady at her job, she worked there, she's like, can you please do my daughter's hair? I don't know how to do it. I'm white.
Okay. Well, you know what, she reached out.
Yeah, so she did. So, because she definitely didn't, because I cried. I said, I'm getting picked on at school. You don't know what you're doing.
Wait, how long?
I got dry ponytails over here, over there. It was just a mess. But me not knowing any better.
At all.
You know what I mean?
She just put the ponytail right here. She ain't brushed it up.
She didn't get the BDBs?
No,
I didn't do none of that.
You
know why? Because I
no lotion
on.
No blue magic, no nothing.
But you have to realize where I came from now.
What is it? Did they do your hair like when you was with the other family?
No, yeah, we did all that. Got your hair done, but you figured I'm with this white woman and she's new at it. So okay, I'm following what she's not doing. You're not putting on any lotion. I'm not going to put on any lotion.
Oh yeah, you was wild.
You know what I'm saying? Come on, be quiet.
Yeah, but that's little kids. You just follow what you see.
Yeah, that's true. Because that black people felt like I was like some kind of savage running around town. Like I used to go doing Thomas' house. Her grandparents used to act like I was like a wild beast. I come through. I'm ashy. My hair ain't done. I talk. I don't have no respect for adults. I'm in there talking real greasy because this, I speak freely at home. My grandma speaks German mainly. That's her main language. So if I curse or something, she ain't paying no attention. I'm going in there. I'm telling them what I ain't want to put